Hi, this is Leon Brooks again. We're in full swing here down at the Old Barracks Museum. We're going to be down here from 10 to 4 today, and 10 to 5 today, and tomorrow doing 3 centuries of African American soldiers. Yes, indeed. We've got the Revolutionary War. We've got the War of 1812. We've got the Western War. We have World War I. Surely you must know about the 369 Hellfighters that fought in World War I. Or were you sleeping in class that day?
Go up to a town called Sishaw and stay there, and the rest of the month will come up. They said, hey, other people were marching around, they were in K2 for a while, and they can't deal with it. Well, I've been doing it, but they couldn't. I'm shooting at it.
Or they just were afraid of black people getting an equal footing?
I don't think they were afraid. I think they just didn't think we were capable of doing it. And they didn't, they say they didn't want us in that.
They wanted to keep the club to
They wanted to
themselves.
keep it just little white. But the war was when they found out that they dispersed these men, which they said was working units. But they found out these working units had to fight as well as anybody else. So they had to prove themselves that they could fight as well as the white Marines.
I thought we proved ourselves in World War I.
Well, they more likely did, but this I'm talking about the Marine Corps now.
Oh.
Yeah. So they said it's impossible to get rid of these men the way they can fight. So that's the history. We still going.
What kind of psychological impact?
In part answer to your question, when you go and inspect some unit, some activity, you can cite the positives and you can cite the negatives. And I'm more familiar with Army after-action reports from World War II and a few from World War I and Vietnam. And they cite the negative when it's all black all the time. Yeah. They very rarely bring out the positive. It's almost like when you look at a picture of World War II, all you see is white.
You ever look at a 90-second...
But you don't see all the blacks that were there. They just don't film them when
you ever look at a 90-second infantry after-action report? They make them look terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I've seen a few of them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the case.
So it's not so much what the truth is, it's who gets to tell the story.
Right.
Okay?
You take, for instance, well, of course, most of you saw the movie, Red Tails, about that. Well, see, they went through the same thing.
Yep.
They didn't think they were capable of flying an airplane. But just look what they did. They flew themselves, and they were better than the other apostles.
Pastor Gunner, I ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
One, why would a black man want to serve in that type of outfit? Secondly, what kind of a psychological impact did it have on you all as trainees?
Well, you didn't know it until you got in there.
I mean, but as you were going through it,
Well, you couldn't get out.
but how did it impact the performance of the Marine, knowing that you're not wanted there, knowing that you felt as if you were not as good as a dog, as you quote unquote say, you wanted this to do?
Well, they were, I guess at the time, we were young, out of high school, and it was something to prove, that you could be just as good as the next man.
Oh, why you want to join the Marine Corps?
And the reason,
Everybody's saying, every Marine.
well, the reason the reason I wanted to join the Marine Corps is, you'd be surprised. As a young lad growing up in Manassas, Virginia, the Marines from Quantico came to Manassas on Liberty. As small as Manassas was, of course, there wasn't nowhere else for the Marines in Quantico to go either, but come to Manassas. But I didn't know they were Marines at that time. But these men had that green uniform on, and it was just something different. The way they walked, the way they were built, the way they carried themselves in Manassas, different from the Army and different from the Navy. Not saying anything wrong with the Army.
What are you trying to say about the Navy?
I'm not saying anything.
All right.
But it was a difference, the way they were. And now, wasn't anybody that I saw in the Air Force. At that time, it was called the Army Air Corps, and they were just same as the Army. But it was a difference. But once as I got a little older, then I knew they were Marines. And when the letter came out that they were going to accept us in the Marine Corps, that's where I was going. Not having any idea what I had to go through to be a Marine. And what happened was, being a youngster in boot camp, I said, well, we had finished the rifle range, at least for that day, and we had the old tight cartridge belt, and I had just accidentally, I guess because anybody in the service, when you leave the rifle range, all ammunition is supposed to stay on the rifle range. But I had this one round in my cartridge belt. Now, we were in the woods, in tents. All I had to do was just throw it out there in the woods. Nobody would never know the difference. No, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to do the right thing. Got that round of ammunition and gave it to my platoon sergeant. He went up one side of me and down the other. And he said, boy, I'm not going to say what he said, but anyway, he said, do you know how serious this is? I said, yes, sir. And he said, I'm going to take you up to the colonel. So that's what he did. He took me up to the colonel. And the colonel looked at me and he said, boy, I'm going to give you two choices. You're going back to boot camp, or you're going to get a court martial. I said, sir, I'll take the court martial. No way in the world I'm going back to boot camp. Not as much hell as I caught.
So we try to recycle it.
Yes, no way. You can give me the court martial. I'm not going back to boot camp. So he said, okay, we got something for you to do. He said, Sarge, take him out there. He said, we got a 6x6 I want you to dig. He gave me a shovel. And every evening after we got off the rifle range, I was out there with that, just a shovel, digging and picking that hole, 6x6.
Did he really give you a shovel or one of them little entrenching tools?
No, it was a shovel, just a shovel. Digging that hole. And about 10 o'clock every night, I was out there 4 nights. He'd come out there and get me. And the night before I fought record, he came out there and he measured that hole. I had it squared away. He measured that hole and took me out of that hole. The night before record. And that day, when I fought record, I fought sharpshooter. He said, oh, but my hands were sore from digging that hole that night. And me and those mosquitoes, we were wrestling out that night, but I was determined to get that hole dug. The good thing is, he didn't make me fill it up. Usually they make you fill it up. They didn't make me fill it up.
You know, it's my understanding that many of the blacks in the Newark, New Jersey area, when they first opened up the ranks for join the Marine Corps, they actually wanted to go in the Navy. They were all at the examination station to join the Navy when some officer walked out and said, you, go over there, you're going to be in the Marines. And that's how he and a bunch of other guys ended up in the
I heard
Corps.
about that. Yeah. They did it during Vietnam, too. They said, well, you're a Marine, you're an Army, you're a Marine, these guys tried to go in the Army, or they were drafted. They just picked them and put them where they wanted.
Hey, you know, I'm not going to take so much besmirching on the Army yet.
Yeah. Hey, Gunny, could you let us know a little bit about Hashmark Johnson and Sergeant Major Huff?
Well, they were Huff and Hashmark Johnson were I guess you might say the stalwarts of the Marine Corps, Black Marine Corps. See, they had been in the Army and the Navy before they came into the Marine Corps. Well, see, at that time, we had officers who were in the Army. When they said go into the Marine Corps, they gave up their commission to come into the Marine Corps. And we didn't understand why, because they had to go through boot camp, and when they finished boot camp, they were buck privates. That commission was something going out the window. But the guys were coming from the Navy come from the Army, come from the Army Air Corps at that time. It wasn't the Air Force, it was Army Air Corps. Coming into the Marine Corps. And we couldn't understand. And they had rank. Coming in there as a buck going through all that they were going through that boot camp just to say I'm a Marine. But that's what we had. We had a lot of them coming in there.